Did you know that the average modern home is designed to last just 30 years? That's right, the place you're living in right now might have less staying power than your grandma's china set. In the good old days, homes were built to withstand generations. Now, we're lucky if they outlast our mortgages. Stick around as we uncover the startling reasons behind this shift and what it means for your future. Remember those old houses that seemed to stand the test of time? The ones that made you feel like you were stepping into a fortress every time you visited Grandma? Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a trip down memory lane and explore why those homes felt so rock solid. Picture this. It's the 1950s, and you're walking up to a typical American home. What do you see? A sturdy brick exterior, gleaming hardwood floors, and walls so thick you could barely hear the neighbors even if they were throwing a wild party. These weren't just houses. They were strongholds built to last for generations. But here's the million-dollar question. Why don't we build them like this anymore? You might think it's all about cutting corners and saving a buck, but the truth is a little more complicated than that. Let's break it down, starting with the materials. Back in the day, builders weren't working with just any old lumber. We're talking old-growth timber here, folks. These trees had been growing for centuries, resulting in wood that was dense, strong, and naturally resistant to rot and pests. Compare that to the fast-growing tree farm timber we use today, and it's like comparing a heavyweight boxer to a lightweight. Now, let's talk about the people behind these architectural marvels. Being a builder back then wasn't just a job, it was a respected trade passed down through generations. These weren't your average Joes slapping together prefab walls. These were skilled craftsmen who took pride in their work and knew every trick in the book to make a house stand strong. Have you ever noticed how those old houses seem to fit perfectly into their surroundings? It's not just good looks, it's smart design. Builders back then didn't have the luxury of cranking up the AC or blasting the heat. They had to work with Mother Nature, not against her. In hot climates, you'd see deep porches and high ceilings to keep things cool. In colder areas, they'd orient the house to catch the most sunlight and use materials that retained heat. But here's something that might really blow your mind. These homes weren't just built tough, they were built to be repaired. Yep, you heard that right. Unlike today's throw it away when it breaks mentality, the houses of yesteryear were designed with maintenance in mind. If a pipe leaked or a floorboard creaked, you could fix it without tearing down half the house. No planned obsolescence here, folks. Now, you might be thinking, surely modern homes must be better in some ways. Hold that thought. We're getting there. But for now, let's appreciate the perfect storm that created these long-lasting homes. Quality materials, skilled labor, and a societal mindset that valued durability over disposability. Think about it. These houses were built in an era when people expected to live in the same home for decades, maybe even pass it down to their kids. They weren't thinking about flipping houses or upgrading every few years. They were building legacies, not just shelters. And let's not forget about the regulations, or rather, the lack thereof. Building codes were a lot less strict back then, which had its pros and cons. On the plus side, builders had more freedom to use time-tested techniques and materials. On the downside, some of those materials, we're looking at you, asbestos, turned out to be not so great for our health. But here's a fun fact that might surprise you. Despite being built decades ago, many of these old homes are still more energy efficient than their modern counterparts. How's that for a plot twist? It's all thanks to those thick walls, quality materials, and smart design that worked with the local climate. Now, you might be thinking those old homes sound pretty great, so why did we stop building them? Well, folks, it's time to fast forward to today and knock on some modern walls. Spoiler alert, they might sound a bit hollow. Let's find out why our homes went from fortresses to something else entirely. Ever wondered why your walls make that hollow sound when you knock on them? It's not just your imagination, it's a telltale sign of how home construction has changed over the years. We're surrounded by houses that seem to pop up overnight, but are they really built to stand the test of time? Here's a shocker that might make you spill your coffee. Many modern homes are designed with a lifespan of just 30 to 50 years. Yeah, you heard that right. Your house might not even outlast your mortgage. But why such a drastic change from those brick powerhouses our grandparents called home? Let's start with the elephant in the room: cold, hard cash. Building materials have gotten seriously expensive, and don't even get us started on labor costs. Did you know that stick frame construction, the most common method used today, costs around $18 per square foot? That might not sound too bad, but here's the kicker. If you want to build with good old-fashioned masonry, you're looking at 3 times that amount. No wonder builders are cutting corners. But hold on, it's not just about pinching pennies. Our whole society has done a 180 when it comes to how we think about homes. Remember how Grandma and Grandpa lived in the same house for decades? Well, those days are gone. The average American now moves every 5 to 7 years. We're a nation on the move, always chasing that next big opportunity. So, why build a house that'll last 100 years when you'll be gone before the paint dries? And let's talk about tech for a second. We want our homes to be smart, energy efficient, and loaded with the latest gadgets. Those old brick beauties? Not exactly compatible with your smart thermostat or that fancy new wiring system. So we've traded solid walls for ones that are easier to retrofit with the latest tech. Now, here's something that might ruffle some feathers: regulations. Sometimes those well-intentioned rules can have some pretty surprising consequences. Take brick, for example. Modern building codes often require way more masonry than we used to use, making it a lot more expensive and complicated to build with traditional materials. It's like the rules are pushing us towards lighter, cheaper options without even meaning to. Speaking of lighter materials, have you noticed how many new homes are built with stuff that looks like wood but isn't quite wood? Welcome to the world of composite materials. They're lighter, cheaper, and easier to work with. But here's the million-dollar question. Will they stand up to decades of wind, rain, and your kids' baseball games like good old brick and stone? Some folks who know a thing or two about preserving old buildings are raising the alarm. They're worried that these newfangled materials just don't have the staying power of the classics. And get this, they're not just concerned about how long our houses will last, but about the big picture. They're talking about the carbon footprint of our homes over their entire life cycle. Makes you think, doesn't it? Now, before you start feeling too down about modern homes, remember, they do have some advantages. They're quicker to build, easier to customize, and can be pretty energy efficient right out of the gate. Plus, let's be honest, not everyone wants to deal with the quirks and constant maintenance of a century-old house. The shift to what some might call disposable homes isn't just about cutting corners or being cheap. It's a reflection of how we live now, always on the move, always looking for the next big thing. Our homes have changed because we've changed. Think your shiny new home is a bargain compared to those old-timey houses? Hold on to your wallet, folks. We're about to uncover some hidden costs that might make you wish you'd invested in a time machine instead of a smart thermostat. At first glance, modern homes seem like a steal. They're cheaper to build, come with all the bells and whistles, and look picture perfect. But what if we told you that these bargains might be emptying your pockets faster than you can say mortgage? Let's dig into the nitty-gritty of why our grandparents' homes might have been a better deal in the long run. First up, let's talk maintenance. Remember those sturdy brick houses we mentioned earlier? Well, it turns out they're not just pretty to look at. They're also pretty low maintenance. On the flip side, our modern homes with their vinyl siding and composite materials, they need more TLC than a newborn puppy. We're talking regular upkeep that can seriously add up over time. In fact, over a 30-year period, you might find yourself shelling out more for maintenance on your modern home than you would on an older brick beauty. But wait, there's more. Let's chat about energy efficiency. Now, you might be thinking, surely our modern homes with their fancy insulation are more energy efficient, right? Well, hold on to your hard hats, because it's not that simple. While it's true that wood frame houses, which are all the rage in modern construction, allow for thick insulation between the framing. There's a twist. Brick homes, despite being less effective insulators, have something called thermal mass. This nifty feature helps stabilize indoor temperatures, potentially saving you some serious cash on your energy bills. Now, let's imagine something a bit scarier than your energy bill: natural disasters. You'd think our modern homes would be built to withstand anything Mother Nature throws at them, right? Well, brace yourselves for a shock. Case studies have shown that older brick and stone structures often perform better in tornadoes and hurricanes than our modern wood frame homes. It's like the Three Little Pigs story come to life. Now, before you start panic building a brick fortress, some experts argue that well-designed wood frame homes can also stand up to these disasters if they're built properly. But that's a big if, isn't it? So, what's the solution? Should we all move into centuries-old castles? Well, unless you've got a spare kingdom lying around, probably not. But there is hope. Some communities are finding clever ways to balance modern needs with traditional building techniques. They're incorporating local materials and craftsmanship, creating homes that are both sturdy and stylish. Some neighborhoods are even bringing back brick and stone, but with a twist. They're using modern building codes that require more robust construction methods. It's like giving those old-school materials a high-tech makeover. And here's something really cool. Some builders are getting creative with hybrid materials. These clever concoctions combine the charm of traditional aesthetics with the performance of modern materials. It's like having your cake and eating it too, but in house form.